What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be reviewing some of the top visually appealing mods for Fallout 4 to transform a 9-year-old game into a modern day masterpiece. So let's get into it. Coming in at number 1, we've got the 4K Pip-Boy mod. So this is how the Pip-Boy looks in its original state. You know, you've got your kind of dull textures around the bezels. Your map doesn't look like a whole lot. It's pretty elementary. And this is what it looks like with the 4K texture mod. And you can change the color of the screen to be white. And additionally, if you don't want the improved map, you don't have to have it. However, I would highly recommend using that improved map because it's pretty cool. It shows you some of the terrain, just much more detailed than the other plain map. So this is a pretty cool quality of life mod that's definitely gonna make this game a little more realistic. Well, in terms of what a Fallout game could be for realism. And you can also see around here the bezels are all in 4K and it just looks awesome. All the dials and the screw heads and all the different things around it look pretty nice. As a disclaimer, I'm running version 1.1163. If you are not on that version, most of these mods should work with the version 1.10980. However, if you're having issues, I would highly recommend downgrading. Go ahead and check out my other video. I've got a pretty solid tutorial on how to downgrade. And if you guys need any help, please go ahead and comment. And I'll try to address everyone's issues in the comments as I have already, if you have any problems. So coming in at number 2, we've got our green Commonwealth mod. So I'm sure you guys are familiar. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you've played the game before. This is, you know, how the game looks in its original state. The grass is kind of dull and everything from the nuclear fallout. Nothing's really growing anymore. And I really like this mod because I personally do think that after a certain period of time, plants are going to start growing again. It's not all going to be just like pure desert dullness. So this is what the mod looks like enabled. Just adds a little touch of green throughout the environment. And I think this makes the game look much better. And you know, it's up to your personal preference. Some people might disagree. Well, I think it'd be better to have it as like a kind of gray wasteland without any of the green environment. But I personally think that this is a pretty cool touch to add a little bit of green grass throughout. And the mod developer did a really good job with not like putting it in the middle of the road. If you're familiar with Skyrim modding, that can be a pretty big problem. Sometimes there are patches that go in the middle of the road, but they're in areas that kind of make sense. The next mod we're gonna view, this is actually 2 mods. This is the wet mod as well as the waves mod. So this is Fallout in its original state, and this is with the wet and the wave mod. So what the wet mod does is it just kind of takes the water textures and tries to make them a little more realistic looking. And then the waves mod, essentially it changes the physics of the waves to make them a little more accurate. So if you're wading through the water, the waves are going in the right direction, so on and so forth. And I think this is a pretty cool touch. There's another part of the wet mod where you can change the raindrops as well to be a little thicker. Next up, we have the Enhanced Lights FX mod. This one's pretty subtle. So this is how Fallout looks in its original state, and then this is with the mod enabled. So it kind of adds a little different light. It's kind of a little brighter, and at night it changes some of the like neon lights just slightly, and some of the different like light bulbs and whatnot. It just kind of makes things a little more realistic. Next up, we've got our True Storms mod, and this can be found in inventory under the miscellaneous tab if you installed it correctly. So what True Storms does is it adds a configuration menu Some of these effects you can turn on and off. I keep most of these off, keep the game a little more vanilla, but there's a few things that you can change, essentially, that'll change the way the game plays. And the coolest part about True Storms is you can change the weather on the fly. So if I go into the weather control, click on the area you're in, you can change it to all these different types. So clear, clearest, dusty, foggy, misty, misty rain, overcast, rad storm, rad foggy, rad overcast, and rain. So here's rad foggy. I click on it. And as I exit out of the Pip-Boy, it changes the weather instantly. So this is pretty cool. If you're in a certain area and you're like, oh, this would actually look pretty cool if I turned on the weather like this right now. Or if you're feeling like some rain, or all of a sudden you're like, I really wish it was clear right now. You could just clear out all the weather. And here it is with rain enabled. And this is what I was talking about earlier with the raindrops. You can see the rain is a little thicker. That's something I enabled during the wet installer on the wet mod. And then, like I was saying earlier, if you want to just clear the weather out, you can go to clear or clearest, and it's all gone. Next mod we have here is the HD Textures 2K. And I'm going to put all these mods in the description down below so you don't have to go try to find them yourself, so you can just have a direct link. But anyway, this is what it looks like in its original state, and then this is with the mod enabled. So we're looking at this super duper mart here, and as you can see down below, there's a big pile of trash. And with the textures turned off, it's just kind of a gray pile of nothing. With the textures turned on, you can see, you can actually make out some of the trash, and it makes it look much more realistic. The problem with this mod is it is 46 gigabytes in size. And if you guys are familiar with Nexus mods, it's going to take a while to download as a free user. Here's the rock face. Adds a little more realism to it. It's the road here. Some of your puddles. And they did a really good job with this mod. This is actually a fairly old mod, but it still works really well with the latest version. Next up here, we have the X Vivid Textures Pack. Now this one, you can see here, it still does change the trash to kind of make it look a little more realistic. It's not as realistic, but it still looks pretty good. And the cool thing about this mod is it is much smaller. So you can see some of the trash on the ground here. It kind of just adds some like kind of copper metallic trash to the ground, which still looks pretty good in my opinion. But the cool thing about this mod is it is in size 1.7 or so gigs for like the 2K variant. And the rocks look really good in this version. Same with the trees. That is actually one thing I like a little bit better about this mod is I think the trees look better than the HD 2K texture pack in the last version that we just looked at. That's like much bigger. And somehow this mod is a fraction of the size, and I think the trees look better. It's not going to be as extensive of the different types of textures that it covers. However, if you just want to like download something quick off of Nexus mods, this is a pretty good option. And another thing to note is you can't have both Xvivid with the HD Textures 2K installed at the same time. You have to pick one or the other. And that same goes for the official Steam version of the HD textures. You're going to want to uninstall those if you're going to be running either of these two mods. So anyway, that'll do it for this video. If you guys know of any mods that you want me to review, or you've got some recommendations on some good mods, let me know down in the comments below. consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, have a wonderful day.